I'm gonna see how sharp my knife is. This knife does not feel sharp at all. Let's do a little test real fast. I think it cut a 1/2 inch. So because I think this knife is quite dull, I'm gonna start with my lowest grit actually. Keep my stone wet, and my first pass is always pushing away from me. Now there's 2 ways to do this. You can do with a push down the stone, or you can do with a pull back down the stone. Either way is going to accomplish the same goal, which is to create a burr. But pushing removes more material faster. So I do pushing until I get to the very high grit. When I'm ready to remove the burr, then I do pulling. How I hold the knife does matter. I hold it, this index finger moves so I can keep pressure from about the middle of the knife down to the heel. And then these fingers take from the middle of the knife down to the toe. I like to start on the heel actually. And you can see that the edge of my fingers, or the very tip of my fingers, meets where the edge of the blade touches the stone. And now it's all about cant. How am I going to find that right angle? So I start to push, and I let the knife sort of tell me, am I pushing at the right angle? If I'm very steep, there's going to be lots of drag. If I'm very shallow, there'll be no drag. At the very steep, it means I'm just dulling the knife. And at the very shallow, that means I'm just scuffing up the face and I'm not doing anything to the edge. Now let's listen to what that sounds like. I can feel I'm doing some work there. It feels appropriate. Let me take another pass. And let's look at what's happening to the black on the back edge. See how it's removing right there, right on the edge. That means that my cant wasn't too shallow. Now I'm gonna keep making some passes here until this is shiny all the way down to the toe or the tip. Now we know that the angle is right. Now it's just a matter of how uniform is the burr down the length of the blade, okay? Just because you're removing black doesn't mean you have a uniform burr. So let's keep working here. What we're seeing as I start here and I push, I'm keeping pressure on the edge of the blade. I have my thumb on the spine. My thumb's on the spine. My index finger floats from the heel through here. And my 3 fingers are on the face of the blade. My middle finger touches right where the edge meets the stone. And I start to listen. This has been here for a while, so I'm gonna put a little water on it. It's been drying out a tad. Let's just watch as I push. Now, as I bring it back, I keep pressure, but I just lighten it a tad. And I push. Listen to that sound. That sound's going to change as that burr develops. Now you see the gap developing between my 2 fingers? I'm losing pressure here. So I'm going to slide my finger over and close that gap, because I'm moving these down. So I'm trying to keep the space minimal. I've crept up onto the heel of the blade so that my finger's all the way up and here. I tend to move faster than this. Let's look at the black being removed. And we're getting there. We're not creeping up onto the face of the blade, but we're just taking down that edge right there. So we're getting there. Typically, this is the speed that I'm gonna start to speed things up to the speed I normally work at. Okay. You can tell by the sound that it needs more water. I add water as needed, but I don't clean the stone. There's going to be grit and dirt and metal shavings that accumulate on the stone. I leave those there and I leave them on the blade. So now I'm feeling for a burr. I'm pushing up on with my thumb up the face of the blade and the edge, and I'm trying to feel a scrape. If you think you feel it, you don't have a good burr. Where's the burr gonna occur or happen? It's gonna happen on the top side. So as I push this way, the burr will happen up here. Once I have a good burr, I'll flip the burr, and the burr will happen always on the top edge. So I don't feel a good burr, so I'm gonna keep going here. And what I'm doing is I'm scraping. Don't roll your pad, the thumb pad, over the top, because that's gonna make it feel like a burr. Run it straight up the face, and if it's not there, just keep grinding. It'll be there. Some steels are harder than others, but we've not removed it up past the edge, and that's what we're looking for. That helps us understand our angles. When I look at the blade, from heel to toe, the thickness of the removed black down the edge is uniform. I'm trying to show you guys on the video, a little hard, but it's, for the most part, fairly uniform. So that shows a consistent cant. I can start to feel a burr. It's pretty consistent, and it's rough. So I'm gonna show you. Do you see how the water is running down the edges? See those little lines of dirty water? That's where my thumb touched, and the burr scraped that water off. So when you think you've got a good burr, then do the other side. So now it's time for the pull stroke. And for the pull, again, I don't really change the angle of the stone. It points up and to the right, away from me. I do change how I hold the knife. So on the push stroke, my index finger is on the face of the blade. On the pull stroke, my index finger changes to the spine. On the push stroke, my pads are here on the edge, where the edge meets the stone, and on the pull stroke, they're here, closer to the spine. Works. I don't really need to change my grip so much, but I do keep my middle finger right up into the heel. My thumb is right there where it meets the edge. So I can feel how it meets the edge. The pressure comes on the pull towards me. I lighten it up a little bit as I bring it back. I really try to keep my 2 fingers up and out of the way.
You hear that? Smooth my wire. So I'm going to finish this stroke. Put some more wire on it.
Good. So now that I've flipped the burr, it's time to move up to a higher grit. Alright guys, here we are on the highest grit, and it's time to just flip the burr one time and then remove it. A drier thumb tends to feel the burr a little bit better. I think this is about as good as I can get it, and so now it's time to do it on the pull, but not be aggressive. So instead of doing the pull, we're going to do the push away. But we can still keep the same technique in that there will be a pull, but the pressure comes on the push. And not that much pressure, because we do not want to create a topside burr. So as I run my thumb up the edge, I don't want to feel burr on either side. I feel it through the belly here. Pretty sharp. That was part 1.